Hello, everyone, and welcome to Earp Sister Feels. This is our video number 29, where we're going to be discussing the Wynonna Earp episode, Look at Them Beans, Season 4, Episode number 3. My name is Kevin Batchelder, and again, we have our full crew back to talk about this particular episode. So let's let all of them do a quick hello so you know who's who, starting with Rita.
Hi.
Terry Ann.
Hello.
Kylie.
Hello.
Jess.
Hello.
Alyssa.
Hey, friends.
And Jill.
Hey.
All right. So this episode, folks, obviously, if you've watched it, you know how much fun, how crazy it is, how bonkers it is, and everything that goes into this one. So much good stuff. Obviously, here on these videos, we focus on the scenes with the Earp sisters, although I'm sure some of our conversations are going to bleed in some other directions. I know a certain one that several people want to talk about, and that'll be okay if we get there too. It all overlaps. But it was, for me, certainly good to finally have them, the Earp sisters, back in purgatory. So, of course, if they're going to be back in purgatory, we have to have the first time that they're together, because Wynonna's in jail.
Classic.
Classic.
So what did folks think as far as, shall we say, lawyer Waverly there?
I love the return of the red glasses. Yep.
I want to know how cosplay those are supposed to be for Waverly. Like,
Right.
Are they her actual glasses? She's like, I like these.
Those are when she goes nerd. Like, she's either a
Yeah, but does she
doctor
need
or
them?
she's a lawyer. Like, when she goes nerd, she puts on the red glass.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
They're not
Missing.
prescription. And then she goes and saves Wynonna's ass.
As she does.
As she does, right.
I was hoping
Look
they'd bring
out for
back some-
Waverly wearing the red glasses. She's going to save Wynonna's ass.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, but totally a callback to, oh gosh, what episode was that? 201?
201,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep. Too.
Yeah, definitely like with sort of the criminal hijinks going on. I guess if that's what you want to call it, legal hijinks. I don't know. But like definitely a classic Earp sister scene. We've got Waverly knowing things and Wynonna not knowing things. Lots of
It's
feet,
actually
lots
on
of
right now in
mouths.
the background.
Yeah.
It's happening right now on my TV.
But actually it literally just didn't occur to me because I was thinking, Kevin, when you said like the first scene together, and I realized that when they came back to purgatory, we had a first scene together of Wynonna and Doc and Waverly and Nicole. We didn't have a first scene together
Mm-mm.
back in purgatory of Wynonna and Waverly.
Right.
Now
Right.
they had a really emotional scene when they were leaving the garden.
Yes.
But actually we didn't get a real reunion scene between them.
Yeah.
No, that's why it was kind of funny that, to me anyway, the first mention is, when Doc got caught in the trap, and they're describing, that Wynonna's in jail. It's like, okay, so instead of a nice reunion, we have to go into full, as we said, legal hijinks and everything else to figure out how to get her out. So to me, that's very typical. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't just have a nice, friendly meet at the front door of the homestead and have a hug. No, we actually have to go try to save her.
But their back and forth, though, is always so comical in those scenes. The two of them just back and forth, whispering almost to each other. Like, it's so classic Wynonna and Waverly. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Mhm.
And what made it even better,
Zero Latin.
well, what made it even better, though, is that, like, Mel was directing it, too, right? So you wonder, like, how much is just the two of them playing off of each other and adding to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I loved the scene. Well, because everything was so bizarre, with Wynonna almost getting hung by Chrissy Nedley, and then now they're in the municipal building, and I have to admit, like, I was totally taken aback when that new sheriff was like, meet me in my office. And I was like, whoa, hello, whose office are you? But, and you know, then she gets up on the table and she's like, hey, chili cook-off for freedom. And Weaver's like, is this real life? I'm like, I don't know. It's so bizarre.
My word, someone please start a counter office account. Maybe I should just do it.
I know. I'd be like, what? Who has taken up residence in my
I love
office?
that.
I mean, I know we often talk about in the fandom just how amazing Mel's faces are for any emotion, but especially in this episode, several times, including that one when Waverly had that line, "This is real life." You can just see on Mel's face, like, only mine kind of thing, only in mine could this be going on.
Yeah.
It was a great example, because, and I also love that at one point when Waverly's trying to, get her lawyer or legal points across, she stands there very astute, get the hands on the hips to look like, you're trying to get your point across. And all. I love some of the physicality of how, like we talked about, when she's putting on a persona, you can definitely tell more than when it's just casual Waverly.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Speaking of facial expressions, I think that Dom really nailed some facial expressions in that scene, because she is like sort of trying to save everything, and Wynonna is like classically ruining it by speaking.
Like the backlog.
And just like, while she's allowing Wynonna to speak, and she's not like stopping her by any means, but her little facial expressions are like so keyed in to just like, I can't believe you right now.
Just stop talking.
Up with your mouth.
If I had a mute button on you, I'd be using it right now, please. Not helping.
I totally forgot they didn't have an opening scene. Like, that was the opening scene.
Well, and that's for me what was kind of fun, because, for the sake of our discussion, I'm like, okay, let me put some bullet points. I mean, I remember the construct of the episode, and I went through the beginning going, oh, that's right, they never had that first scene until then. I was taken aback, because I guess I just assumed from all the garden stuff, and so yes, that was a little odd, but certainly on point for them having to just go do something right away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, really, for them, it's only been 2 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we actually don't know. I mean, Doc and Waverly spent time in the garden before Wynonna arrived. So, it really could be for Waverly and Wynonna, literally they just saw each other yesterday and they're like, whatever, now we're back in a strange environment. I don't know. So they don't need a big reunion, because they literally just saw each other 5 minutes ago or yesterday. But on the other hand, everybody's getting these big reunion scenes. Doc and Waverly had a, when Doc was in the trap, Doc and Waverly had a reunion scene where Waverly kissed him and said, hey, I'm so glad you're back. And everybody, and everybody's hugging everybody. But yeah, the Earp sisters were like, meh. Here I am in my Waverly.
Just another day in our relationship.
Wynonna, must be Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, having to interact too with the magistrate and all of that crazy to start with. Yeah, that was quite the odd wake up call and everything that goes with it.
Yeah.
I did like the comfort between the two of them. I really love the fact that Wynonna was basically completely relying on Waverly to take charge and just, she's like, is this our whole plan? And I'm just remembering back to the last time when Waverly was in going incognito, and you kind of saw that it was like a 50-50 effort, where Waverly kind of had her thing that she had to do and Wynonna had her part that she had to do. But in in this scene, it's really just all on Waverly, and Wynonna's just like, all right, I'm gonna like step back and you can take care of it. So I really love that that like dynamic between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. And it really kind of flips quite a bit too, I think. Well, I don't know if flip's the right word, but I mean, the next time we've got them is at the chili cook-off. And again, we just see Wynonna very much being so out of her league. Wynonna in food. Well, excuse me, Wynonna in cooking.
Making
Yeah,
It's not mac and cheese and hot dogs, so
yeah.
I love what I love about this scene. Obviously, the two of them have some great interactions, but it's because we also have Nicole as a part of it. I think that creates that other vibe where we have the Nicole and Waverly basically realizing they have to team up because Wynonna is going to screw this up if it's left to her. Cheese first, right?
Oh my god,
All right, okay.
The whole block.
And
Whole
I
block.
liked in that when Waverly and Nicole first walk in, like Waverly kind of steps back and let Wynonna and Nicole have that first interaction by themselves, and then she kind of steps back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I think it's kind of interesting because, like, I think Wynonna and Nicole have a bit more in common right now with the sort of tragic sides of their like they've both gone through something a little bit, and so I think they're bonding a bit more. Like, I think just even in the scenes where like Waverly and Nicole, obviously, like there's something there right now where Nicole's kind of obviously gone through some stuff. It'll be interesting to see the dynamic shift if Nicole and Wynonna become a bit closer because of the both tragic sort of like dealing with stuff and how they deal with it, how that sort of will impact Waverly and Wynonna in their relationship a little bit too. Just even in that scene, I mean, like you see the big reunion of Wynonna and Nicole, and Waverly's kind of stepped off a little bit. It'll be interesting to see over the season maybe if you see a bit of a change between the dynamic of all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
There was a tweet today. We can call out people here, right, Kevin?
I think so.
It was Carla Fowler's tweet, and I retweeted it. That it was like I get that we all love Way Hot, but the first night back that Wynonna had at the homestead, like because the first night back that Waverly had at the homestead, it was just her and Nicole. Wynonna wasn't there, but the first night back that Wynonna's back at the homestead, she said, that she was going to go upstairs and crawl into bed with them and that they would all sleep better together.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was yes, it felt right that they all needed to be, like all three of them needed to be together. It wasn't just, before in previous seasons we had, Waverly had this really close relationship with Wynonna, and Waverly had this really close relationship with Nicole, and Wynonna and Nicole just sort of tolerated each other. And now we're like, no, they have this, all three of them have these really unique relationships, and together they're better.
Mm-hmm.
In different ways, but it's not just, now Wynonna and Nicole have this relationship too, and so it's really just the three of them, it's a really unique, you can't separate Nicole from the Earp sisters anymore, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just you're dating my baby sister, it's you're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
Who's also dating my baby sister.
Who's also, right.
Yeah.
One might call it growth.
One might.
What?
One might.
I don't know how to do like a fist bump.
Every time.
Every time.
At least
Growth.
once, right?
Well, I'm curious too, maybe to hear everybody talk a little bit about, just to kind of add to that point of the different dynamic now with Nicole, is what about the dynamic now with Rachel being at the homestead? What do we think that might do with not in a bad way, but I mean, how is that going to kind of, aside from the fun of Waverly dancing into the kitchen to come upon her, just the whole idea that she's now living there, how is that going to jive with their chemistry?
Yeah, I think Nicole's going to have to be the mom of both Wynonna and Rachel now, because they're going to get up to some stuff. I'm sure of it.
Oh man. Yeah.
I was worried at first that there was going to be jealousy, which I know I talked about, I don't know, probably the last couple episodes, the last two that we've done. But I feel like Waverly, after seeing Nicole and recognizing that there's something going on, but not really knowing how to approach it, I feel like she's going to feel comfortable that Rachel is there protecting and seeing over and like knowing that she's not alone, which like being alone was a huge theme but for both Waverly and Wynonna in previous seasons. And now we sort of get to see it from a more whole perspective from Waverly and Wynonna, which we see later on in the episode when they're talking to Chrissy. But I feel like they're bringing Rachel and Nicole like into the fold. Like there's not as much distance between like the Earp sisters and the rest of their family.
Rachel kind of seems to have it together to me.
I mean, you can definitely tell she's lived a life. I mean, knowing like in episode 2 that Nicole had a broken leg in 3 places and like knowing how to survive. And I think like a lot of what you said, like that she was there for Nicole when nobody else was, and that like we don't know if she knows it yet, but like she's probably the person that got Nicole out of Monument, to like literally saved her life, getting her back home. And like I was with you, Rita, I thought at first Waverly might be jealous, but like seeing what we see now, I definitely think she's gonna be grateful, and she's gonna take her under her wing because she sees how much Nicole has.
I love the blended family aspect of things and how each of the different relationships between the duos, how they're going to interact, because we have Way Hot and their relationship, we have Wynonna and Waverly, we have Nicole and Rachel, we have Rachel and Wynonna. So I really want to see more of Rachel and Waverly together, and just how the rest of those duos mix and match, and how things change, and what hijinks everyone gets up to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very fascinating to watch, because I mean, we've just like they have known the dynamic for several seasons now, and now it's significantly different. So, what if anything will that have on the character pairings and relationships? It's going to be fascinating to watch. Yeah.
Does anyone else feel like Waverly and Wynonna actually understand one another more than they have in other seasons? Like I feel like there's a lot more nonverbal communication happening in this season, and I'm really intrigued by that. Obviously, it's
I think it has a lot to do
natural.
With like Wynonna. Like I think she's always thought of Waverly like kind of as an equal, but at the same time as like, this is my baby sister, I have to protect her. But I think she's at a point where she knows that Waverly can also protect herself, and so I think that like that goes into that, like nonverbal communication is the trust.
Yeah, and I would say not just Waverly can protect herself. She trusted Doc to go into the garden and protect Waverly. She now trusts Nicole to protect Waverly. For the first time in Wynonna's life, she isn't solely responsible for her baby sister.
Yes.
Her circle of trust has grown immensely.
Right.
Well, she didn't have a circle of trust.
She didn't have a circle of trust. Right.
He's created a circle of trust.
She has. But I know that we talked about it in the last, I don't know, maybe in the last episode or maybe in the first one, I can't remember. But how Waverly and Wynonna's dynamic has shifted, because Waverly has sort of taken on the role of like, an heir of sorts, and Wynonna, like she doesn't have Peacemaker. She's the curse is over. I mean, and I want to talk eventually about how much Wynonna has smiled in the last episode and how my heart is soaring.
Oh my God.
But I feel like that has a big part to do with what Alyssa was talking about, and how they have this unspoken, like a lot of their dynamic is now unspoken, because they have a much deeper connection. Like Wynonna is living, she doesn't, doesn't have as much pressure on her shoulders visibly, and Waverly has been feeling a little more of the pressure, and so I feel like they've balanced a little more lovely.
Yeah, I loved in the chili cook-off scene. There was one moment where in all the hijinks and the fun and this, the vegan and everything that was going with that for fun. And I think it was maybe just before they announced the winner, but Wynonna totally turned her head and put it on Waverly's shoulder.
Yes.
And that to me was very telling, for the same reason on a lot of these things we're talking about now, how, the odds of that happening before, pretty slim unless it was a total breakdown of her. But that seemed very natural, but also not something we get to see much. So it was just, to me, it was very telling.
Yeah,
Waverly
very
would
much.
have been the one that would have to go home in previous seasons. Wynonna wouldn't have let her stay in previous seasons. She would have been like, it's too dangerous, go home, be safe, which is pretty much what they did to Nicole. They were like, go home, be safe, etc. But I don't know, that's another thing. But I feel like Wynonna even letting Waverly be in the same room, like have a seat at the table kind of deal, is a big growth.
Yeah. Well, and at the very beginning of the at the very beginning of the episode, she was about to be hung, and then, she wasn't. And as she was being dragged away by the sheriff, she told Doc, go get Waverly, go get Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
She knew, like, Wynonna was like, I can't get out of this on my own. I need Waverly, I need Nicole. Go get them. So yeah, it definitely is this shift in dynamic. But Kevin, I hadn't thought about the idea that she put her head on Waverly's shoulder. I think that's a very telling moment. You're right.
Mm-hmm. And that's one for me that was not a first watch catch. It was like a rewatch, second or third watch thing, because you're very engrossed in what's going on and what's going to happen. And it was, so it's one of those telling ones why I love the rewatches. You tend to catch things like that. Yeah. And I love too that and this is much in what we've been all talking about here, the role reversals, or at least the way Waverly's stepping up, because once Wynonna's announced as the winner, all she can do is gloat and run around screaming and be happy. And Waverly's the one who's realizes, like, this isn't right. Like, oops, what's going on? So I kind of found that funny, because Wynonna's too caught up in the moment, expecting a free car and everything else. But
I want to know what peppermint butt tastes like. Right.
Anchovies and bacon, apparently.
Right.
Whoa, what a combo.
I do also like the feeling again of like everyone versus Waverly and Wynonna that kind of felt like in that episode during the chili cook-off. Like I know that like in the past it's kind of had that sort of feeling sometimes where it's like the town versus them in some ways, or the revenants versus them, that sort of thing. I kind of like that sort of team up again that we haven't really got in a little while, because I think like the last season it felt to me very much like, they had Shorty's was there, like, well, it was Doc's, but like they all kind of, they had, Randy Nedley was on, on their side. So they almost like not run the town, but they had a bit more control of things. And then I think like now introducing the new sheriff and like, they're kind of back into the place of like, wait, we're not like, kind of, this isn't our show. It's kind of like, everybody against us in some ways again. And I really like that about this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very true.
Even if it was Christy Nedley.
I know.
Well, it's a bit of the reverse of season 1 then, because it was then that same dynamic of being in the town, but the two of them didn't really know each other.
Hmm.
So it's, look at the difference, however many years have passed. Actually makes.
Yep, very true. The other big time we get them together is the epic water gun t-shirt cannon fight sequence, whatever we're going to call it. I don't know what the heck to call it. I still don't know what to call it. But
slow-mo.
the 80s montage, I mean, you name it, it's all Scooby-Doo. I mean, they're all here. But I also love the sisterly dynamic part of it, because Waverly talking to herself and basically scolding herself for saying skank so many times is just precious in and of itself. But the point that I love very much from the sister dynamic is when she is there and trying to help her, and Wynonna is hogtied on the ground, she's still going over there to, I need, what did she say, scissors or something, and she's like, I got teeth. I mean, only Waverly, I think, would go up with that line. But it was just another dynamic of seeing them, realizing what they need to do and doing it. Obviously, having Doc and Nicole, it's not just an Earp Sister scene, but again, they're quick interactions and doing what needs to be done. It's why we love them in that way.
I think that scene is probably one of my new favorites of the show. I just loved every second of it. And to see Wynonna like smiling like that, like I just was like, I love, like my heart just melted. I was like, she's so happy for like 5 seconds before everything else screws up, but she's so happy.
And like, I mean, it's the first time that that we've gotten to see them all back together, like that core four, like they're all working together.
And this was, there were a couple things I was going over today, and one of them was that position, like that actual position of Wynonna on her stomach, sliding into someplace. We had it in episode 2 when she slid into Eden, and she was sliding in to save Waverly, and now here she was again, and Waverly's like, check it. I got this. I got a t-shirt sponsor. Don't worry, I'm good. And so it was like literally Wynonna was in the same position on her stomach, kind of sliding in with her, with her arms back. In one time she was coming in to save Waverly, and in another time Waverly was like, check it, I got it. I'm gonna save you. With my buddies, Nicole and Doc. That scene was amazing.
Yeah. Well, and Wynonna calls for her too.
Yeah, that's what we
Waverly scream.
Well, there's the part from the trailer, the scream part.
I know. And I feel like normally whenever we hear her scream Waverly's name, it's because Waverly's being like taken or
hand chopped off or something.
Yeah, something terrible has just happened.
Something normal.
Normal for the show.
Right. I feel like this is the first time though that we've seen Wynonna like scared and like overtly seeking Waverly's help, because normally I feel like if she's scared, she's like, okay, where's Doc? Where's Dolls? And she's not like screaming their name. She's just like, where are you? Kind of deal. But I thought that was, especially for how silly of a scene it was after, we got all of the fun and there's smiles everywhere, but right before then there is like a big moment of fear for Wynonna, and she's screaming for her sister.
Waverly,
yeah. Which was also really cool about the show in general is, there's this there really truly was this moment, like this I don't know, puff monster, this whatever troll monster, whatever he was going to come and he was going to eat you. And that's not a good thing. And yeah, you're going to scream if you're, dressed up like a goat or something. And then you see your best friends, lassoing it and shooting it with a super soaker. And you're just like, this is absurd. This is absurd. It's absurd. And as a fan, when I saw, Wynonna's face was like, what the hell is going on? And then she just started laughing, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly my own reaction. It was just like, what the fuck? And then I don't know if you're going to have to bleep that out, but but then, then you just have to laugh and just love everybody involved in it.
Yeah, that line from Waverly from earlier in the episode, is this real life? Just like ringing.
And I loved, from a fandom point of view, how many people, just a few days after the episodes aired here, but how many different people I saw on Twitter and so forth talking about that moment of Wynonna realizing that is just like all of us looking at this show in the fandom. Like, you look at these nuts and weirdos and everything, and I'm all in. This is me. You know,
Exactly.
I mean, it's such a mirror reflection, and so many people own it that same way. Like, yep, that's exactly, you know, all the crazy things we'll see at a con or on the show or whatever. Yep, that's okay.
Yep.
That's my peeps. So, and like we said earlier, a reader or whoever it was, I'm sorry, that mentioned the idea that Wynonna never had that circle. It didn't exist. And now she's seeing it here, not only sister and so forth, but this entire group. I mean, it's just so special.
Mhm.
So,
Just cry for her. It's so precious. She's never had like any joy.
mhm.
Joy is not a word that Wynonna would ever use to describe her life, but I feel like
I don't think she knows that word.
it's getting
Honestly.
there. She's gonna learn it. She's growing.
The rest of the season's all going to be just
Yeah.
happiness and laughs and sunshines and
No
rainbow.
twists.
It'll be all great. Yeah.
I'm sure about that next episode.
No stress. No stress.
No stress.
No,
Yeah,
that
that's just-
never happens here.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well, yeah. Well, we're 3 episodes in, so we're halfway through our first half.
I am thinking we're a third of the way, or a fourth of the way through the season. That's how I'm thinking.
Yeah,
of it.
so I was
Not
gonna say,
halfway through the first half.
Well, my point of where I'm going is we've still got lots of roller coaster
Yep.
ride.
All the roller coasters.
It's just, you know, for the Earp sisters.
still
and
going
the entire
up.
thing.
The roller coaster.
Oh, jeez.
Probably haven't even hit the top.
And the dark tunnel that happens immediately after the drop is coming next episode.
Don't you
Apparently.
dark tunnel us.
I didn't
There
do
was
it.
there was this thing a couple
Kristen
weeks
did it.
ago. There was an amusement park was opening in Japan, and they didn't want people to scream on the roller coasters
Yes.
because it would spread COVID. And they were like, please just scream loudly in your heart. That was, the translation to English. And I was like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're screaming loudly in our heart. or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scream
Right on
inside your
Twitter.
heart.
And on Twitter,
In our
yes.
hearts and in Twitter.
Very true.
Yeah.
So, well, not quite as, like we said, emotional maybe as some of the stuff in 402 as far as Earp Sister on, but certainly some very interesting growth. And I think we're going to have to see where it takes them going forward. And
Don't
certainly
they
looking
always do a fun episode right before they like gut you? I
Yep.
feel like they do. I just realized that. I was like, wait, they always do a really fun one.
There's no
Before
tunnel
they
coming,
break
guys. It's
you.
fine.
Oh,
Let's face it, yes.
Woof.
Did anyone else notice that the ending music changed?
Mm-hmm.
The end credits? Totally different.
Yep.
Mm.
You have theories about that?
Of course she does. Of course.
What do you, I noticed it, and yeah, it struck by, I was like, that's different, but I didn't have any thoughts. I didn't recognize the end music.
I mean, I always have theories about things, but it could be totally full of nothing. I don't know. I don't think music on the show has ever been chosen accidentally. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and the fact that I don't know, I'm not convinced that this is actually a real reality that they're in.
Oh boy.
I was going.
I like that. I like that.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no. I
We
can
could have a
talk about
whole
my-
other
Oh,
episode.
I can.
So
Yes, I'm trying not to over analyze anything because I'm just
I
here for
like
the ride.
where you're going. I
Mhm.
will say this, just purely, and now this has nothing to do with the Earp sisters, just purely related to Way Hot.
Which
the
also has
scene
nothing
that-
to do with your sister.
The scene that took place in the end of episode 2, Emily's been really specific that that's real and it's consensual.
Oh, that's yeah, totally. And
Right.
that's,
So
mhm.
like, I do want to say, like, I'm a little hesitant about an alternate reality, kind of not real.
And my thinking on that is, so before Wynonna gets into the garden, time that we see on both ends is kind of moving at the same pace. But it wasn't until Wynonna got into the garden, it could be a mix of Waverly going on the throne, it could be a mix of Eve getting sent through a door, that then we were brought back to purgatory. That's when time changed. So that's kind of where my thoughts are, is that since this change, of the timing, somehow everybody has been misplaced in time. I don't know. So I don't doubt that the real characters, but where they're at, I'm with Liz, where I don't think it's the real territory.
Yeah, no, I think everything that happened actually happens somewhere.
Yeah.
For real. I just don't necessarily think that it's all happening the way that we see it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
So.
No, Earpers are not short on theories and ideas, especially with what's happened in this season so far. So, yeah.
And Wynonna doesn't have her jacket the next episode? What?
What else
Come
does
on.
though? Rachel, interrupt us.
The like gasp and like never tell her that is maybe my favorite little moment to ever.
Oh, I hope she tells her that. It's gonna be so good.
I can't wait to see what happens right after. Yeah.
I think there will be consequences, yes. Well, I think we've had another fun time kind of covering some Earth Sisters and some interactive scenes here. So it's been a blast. We hope you folks are enjoying the videos. We appreciate the comments we see every week and the views. We're just sitting down to talk about it. So, your thoughts on all of this is also part of what makes this so much fun for all of us. So do keep those coming. And we'll keep doing these after each episode and going in different directions. And we'll see if some of these theories come to pass. So again, we appreciate it very much, folks. Thank you very much. We hope you all have a great week, and we will catch you soon.